Hello and welcome to Historical Hot or Not, the podcast that is to history what cock-ring myths are to the legacy of Prince Albert, namely an unfortunate distraction. I am Aidan McCaffrey and this is Rochdale's answer to Ava Braun.
Wow. Okay. No, no, I'm not. But hello, I'm Catherine Mather. I'm also not a historian, and I'm not drinking at 2 p.m. on a Saturday.
It's
But
uncharacteristic of me, Kath, but I haven't had a beer in. Oh God, I was about to say weeks, and then I remembered I literally had one 2 days ago at a gig. But apart from that one I had 2 days ago at that gig, I have not drunk on an afternoon in literally hours. So
that is what they all say.
yeah, no.
So, do you want to do your shit puns that you usually do to introduce the podcast? It's kind of falling apart.
Well, I sometimes don't do the shit puncast. Sometimes I'll do like a simile, which was what what cock-ring myths are to the legacy of Prince Albert, namely an unfortunate distraction. So,
okay, sorry, I missed it.
But I do promise some. Pun action later in this episode. This episode, which is festive and Christmas themed, because this is the 2024 Christmas special. Happy Christmas, Kath.
Happy Christmas unto you too, Aidan. How will you be spending it?
Well, commiserating in a way, because as you know, Kath, it's a tumultuous time in the life of Aidan McCaffrey, because I am both turning 40 and it's Christmas, not at the same time. I'm not Christ. Christ, who I envy right now, because Christ died before he had a midlife crisis.
He did. He died very young. He also died, either before or after Christmas, depending on how you look at it. But he didn't have to get any presents in on his birthday for other people. So
he bit the bullet in he bit the bullet in several ways, didn't he?
He did, yeah. What a great guy. Lucky bastard.
I mean, I say he didn't have a midlife crisis, but it's possible, because although he was crucified at 33, it's entirely possible back then, actually, because people's life expectancy wasn't great. Your midlife crisis could have come around the age of 14. I suspect there was lots of 14-year-olds in Judea around that time buying massive chariots to ride on to sort of make up for their small penis and lack of life choices. Blowing their pension money on like a leather jacket or something.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you can't blame them for having small penises because they were children. But
true.
But yeah, it must. Well, would it have sucked having a midlife crisis at 15 because you're going to die at 30? Or, I mean, you wouldn't know any different, would you? Also, I heard this theory, and I can't remember who said it. It's not mine, so please don't credit it. But do you know when they say that, like, old people are wiser? That sort of was true when people died at 60. But now they get into their 80s, and that's not necessarily... They've had time to decline again, haven't they? And it's not necessarily wise anymore. It's more just kooky.
If the Brexit results show anything, it's that age doesn't necessarily bring wisdom, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, Christmas, 40th birthday. But Kath, you made me feel better, didn't you, Kath? Because you sent me something in the post. Shall I show the people watching the video podcast what that thing was that you sent me in the post?
Yeah, absolutely. I also forgot to tell you that I was sending it, so you just opened it before your birthday, which is fair, to be honest. That is what I would do if I received just a letter.
A letter addressed to your Instagram handle, not actually to yourself, which is another curious thing. I thought it was fan mail for a second. When I realised it was just from you, I was like, Kath hates me. This can't be classed as fan mail.
Well, the problem is I can't remember fully how to spell your surname, so I just write Aidan McComedy on everything. And the only times I've ever sent you anything, I think, were for your birthday and about a job lot of, I want to say about 250
condoms.
Hot or Not branded condoms, yeah. And badges, but they were in a separate package because, obviously. Yeah.
Don't know how to spell your name. That's what 5 years of friendship brings you people. Uncertainty.
I know what your name is. I've typed it into everything. I've typed your email address in wrong so many times that now it comes up suggested. So I don't know which is which.
I like the idea that there's lots of people with names very similar to me. Adrian McCartney, Aid, I don't know, Aid Cowsland, and all these people, and they're all receiving like random emails like, "What if Boudica was hot?" You know,
Yeah.
should we bang Pontius Pilate? Like weird episode suggestions, and to them it's just like there's just some woman called Kath who's emailing random Aidans around the country suggestions of hot people from history that she might want to have sex with.
You're going, do you know what? Yeah, I might suck off Benedetto. Benazir. Oh my God. I'm
Do you want
terrible.
to? So this is
Shall I
what
say
I
it
got.
again?
Go. Say it as many times
I mean,
as you
you
want.
couldn't suck her off, really, could you? She's a lady.
Depends how big her flaps are.
True.
This is what Kath sent me in the post. For audio-only listeners, it's a yellow balloon on which it says "Happy fucking whatever."
Yeah. Do you like it?
I do, and I sort of this is like it's funny like that I'm doing it now because I actually did blow this up the second it arrived 2 or 3 days ago. Decided not to mention it to you that I'd received it because I thought it would be more fun to do on the podcast. But of course now it's shrunk, so it looks even more fucking pathetic than you probably intended because I'm basically holding a balloon that's almost the size of a grape in my hand.
Did you get the joke? The joke in there? Because there was another gift.
Well, yeah.
Wasn't
So
there?
there was another joke, and it was 6 herbal tea bags,
No, it
all
wasn't.
of
It
which
was 4.
all of which screamed nicked from a hotel buffet in 2022 because they didn't seem particularly new either. They had
No,
like
God, no.
they were all individually packaged and they were like creased and stuff. So, well, I didn't get the joke. What was the joke?
It was 4. It was 4 tea bags that you got. Yeah.
We promised you puns, listeners. We didn't say whether they'd come from me or Kath. They have arrived from Kath. In the
They
form of,
have.
Kath, I swear there was more than 4. This is why
No,
I
there
was.
was only 4.
I swear.
Because
Go on.
I sat there, Aidan. I sat and I looked through my desk drawer in the office at work, and I did my best to find 4 different flavoured tea bags because I've got so much green tea, so much peppermint tea. Nobody likes peppermint tea. That's why I've got so much of it.
Photographic evidence that Kath sent me 5 tea bags, not 4, 5. Back to the pod.
Who wants to drink a fucking mint?
Me. I bring it all the time.
All right, well, you're welcome then.
Thank you for my wonderful present, Kath. I can't wait to drink the out-of-date tea bag you've had
They're not
sitting
out
in
of
your desk
date.
drawer for the. I don't know. They looked out of date. They might not be.
Tea don't go out of date, does it?
Yeah,
Really?
Not really. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's a tea and cockroaches. That's what survived the apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it has also been my birthday recently, and there was a notable lack of mail from the McCaffrey household.
It wasn't a big one, though.
No, to be fair, I turned 32. But I don't want to turn 40. So I didn't want to turn 32, to be honest. At this point, it's just like the sands of time just falling away, isn't it? And you look back and you think, God, what have I achieved over the years? And it's very little.
Welcome to this comedy podcast, people, which so far has had no jokes and not one, but 2 existential slides into despair. One of them isn't really a real slide into existential despair. It's a woman looking forward to an inevitable slide into despair that's coming in 8 years' time.
Yes. Well, it's just weird, isn't it? Because like when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be like a published author. I wanted to own a house in London. And now I'm an actual adult. I'm like, I want to live somewhere where I don't have to get written permission to put a picture on the wall. And I want to be able to turn the heating on.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's crack on with the podcast, shall we? Happy Christmas and all of that.
I just got one more thing to say.
Sorry.
Something
right,
I did. So I did a new thing. I'm not 40 yet, but I kind of feel like when you turn an age, you've got to like do something you've never done before, like throw yourself out of an airplane or have sex with a woman for longer than 2 minutes. Just something novel.
Yeah.
That you
say sorry.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly. Or have sex without saying sorry, or anything like that. But I did something. I did, as some listeners may know, Kath and I are stand-up comedians.
You wouldn't think it.
Do you know what? I sometimes think when I say that, how should I clarify? No, I'm not going to clarify this. Just let that stand. And that was one of those moments when I thought, I'm going to let that stand. And you pissed yourself laughing, entirely undermining it.
No, we are. We're professionals. It's our job.
No, I did something I've never done before in the comedy realm.
Which
is
told a joke.
I said that to you the other day, and I did it better because you said I did something for the first time, and I said, "Gotta laugh." So, fuck you. No, I did 10 minutes of pure character comedy, Kath.
Wow.
I know, not stand up. I just pretended to be someone else on stage for 10 minutes.
I mean, aren't we all doing that all the time? But good for you.
True.
Who was the character? Did you just put a hat on and do a silly voice?
Red wig, chain smoking.
Yeah.
I'm Kath. I'm from North.
I don't chain smoke.
I was a grandma at 24. That's the character. You do smoke, don't you?
Not chaining it though.
Just 25 a day. That's not chaining it. It's not chaining until you get to 30. No, it was a character called. It's not unrelated to this podcast, actually. You know how we sometimes joke that we have no, it's not a joke. It's a real thing. We have a side podcast called "If It Ain't Woke, Don't Fix It."
Mm-hmm.
A podcast where we air our free speech bona fides.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagined a presenter of that as an American guy called Brandon Koch, who is a free speech absolutist in that he absolutely doesn't want his speech freely disagreed with. And I just pretended to be this not obnoxious. I sort of envisioned him as like a well-meaning young man who has just listened to a little bit too much Joe Rogan and it's sort of melted his brain. And I just pretended to be this guy on stage. Now, I did an accent. I went with what I thought was the most root one, generic American accent. It was.
Oh, that's good, because I was going to say, don't do a Chinese one.
Yeah, he's an Indian free speech absolutist, and that's where the problem started. No. So I was doing this like really root one American accent like this. Hi, I'm Brandon Koch. I present If It Ain't Woke, Don't Fix It. I was talking like that the whole time. I'm thinking, this is obviously a joke. No one's really gonna believe this. For the first few minutes of me doing this character, I was not getting that many laughs, and I was thinking, okay, while they clearly know this is not real, they're also not particularly finding it funny, which is fine. This is an experiment. That's why I'm doing this. And they gradually started to find it funnier and funnier. And I said at the end, I didn't break character at all right until the end. And at the end, I came out of the American accent and went, okay, so I'm Aidan, thanks for like taking part in this. And as I sort of changed into my normal accent, a woman's face dropped in a way I've never seen at any gig. And I looked at her and went, please don't tell me you thought this isn't a real American accent. And she just was like, I don't trust you anymore. I don't trust you. And I was like, wow. I'm aware this show is slightly self-aggrandizing because it's like I'm saying, and then it turned out I'm the new Daniel Day-Lewis. But she did admit she had quite a few drinks.
Well, yeah, of course.
But it was quite interesting, Kath, because a few people came up to me afterwards, and because I invited them to, I said, come and tell me if it's shit or good. Just tell me whatever you think. I'd rather know now than commit. Because my problem is I'll commit to something for 7 years.
Like this podcast.
In the face of public indifference. So just come and tell me what you thought. And this guy, several people came up to me and were like, I did think you were a total dick for several minutes. Like they really thought it was convincing. They were like, I really was like, is this guy for real? And I think as I started to list more and more ridiculous opinions of mine, they slowly started to realise it. There was a couple there was two women on the front with like shaved side heads and a blue head woman. So I was like, this is a really interesting experiment because these are exactly the kind of people who would hate exactly this kind of person. And one of the shaven-headed girls really, really seemed to dislike me quite intensely. And when I came out of character and then went back into it, then she started laughing. And I just found it, I don't know what my opinion is. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, she really needed the safety blanket of this isn't real to find it funny. But I feel like if I do it again, I can't pretend. Surely it's better to commit to it and act as if it is real for a bit than to come on and go, what you're about to see is not true. It's a character. That you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I reckon you should maybe try and slip in some indicators that you aren't real, because unfortunately, that is the kind of thing that a lot of people do say and will just go, and that could be real now. It's not entirely out of the realms of possibility, is it?
That's a good note, because
Unfortunately.
Stuart Lee has said this. Like, he said that, and I've probably said this on the podcast before. The problem with what Ricky Gervais does is that when he started doing that ironic racism stuff in the noughties, political correctness was ascendant. But
hmm
actually, now that anti-political correctness, also called anti-wokeness, however you want to label it, now that's ascendant. It's actually harder to do because you could watch it and think, yeah, but some people do, some people do have those
Yes.
shitty opinions.
Yeah. Well, because Rosie Holt, wonderful comedian Rosie Holt, she does the character comedy of being a Conservative MP with shitty opinions, doesn't she?
Oh, does she?
And
I have to check that out.
yeah, I mean, she's doing wonderfully off it, and I'm very glad. But she got a shitload of abuse off people who think that this woman's stupid, and it's like, no, sorry, sir, it is you that is stupid because this is clearly a joke. You fucking moron.
I haven't actually listened to the recording yet of me doing the because I need to figure out what's the point in which it starts to become clear that I'm
hmm
joking. I would have thought it was right from the get go, but I don't think it's quite clear enough. I think I started to list all the different historical names for my podcast, and it was if it ain't woke, don't fix it. Go woke, go broke with Brandon Coke. Triggering it out with Brandon Coke.
hmm
Cock blocking beta male blockers with Brandon Coke. Silence conservative voices, the #1 podcast on Spotify, and then I ended by saying horticulture with Brandon and Pam because it used to be a podcast that Brandon did with his mum. Yeah,
Oh.
before circumstances forced him to change it. And at that point, I think the guy especially started to, you could tell he was thinking this isn't real. But it took a long time. I would have thought at that point, even the shaven-headed girls would have been like, "This can't be real." But they were probably just sitting there, reasonably, arms folded, thinking, "Yeah, triggering it out. That's exactly the kind of podcast these assholes have."
I mean, there is literally one called, is it Trigger Warning or something like that? You know, there's.
Well, there's
Shall
one
we
with
Google it now? I'm going to look up
no, no,
on
no.
Spotify. Have you looked on Spotify? Are they on there?
Well, no, but we both must know that of one with trigger in the name. But I don't want to name it because I hate it so much. I hate its
Oh shit!
existence. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't want to send people their way.
No, I don't want to send people there. But anyway,
No, it's a shame.
if you disagree with everything Kath and I have just said, just go and look for podcasts with trigger in the title. You'll love them. But if you agree with what we've said for the past 10 minutes, don't. You'll hate it as much as we do.
Yeah.
But if you see a guy called Brandon Coke talking about podcasts on any open mic stage in the coming months, just you're in a safe space. He may not be real.
But can you imagine if there is a real Brandon Cook going around and you've said that and now people are going laughing at his stuff and it sets off a chain reaction and then he becomes the next US president, if you will.
It'd be really tragic if the real Brandon Coke believes the opposite of what my fictional Brandon Coke believes in, and he's actually trying to shut down like free speech absolutist assholes, and no one takes him seriously because I've told everyone it's a fictional character. And I've shot myself in the foot. Anyway,
poor
Kath,
Brandon. We should do a podcast, shouldn't we?
Yeah, yeah, that could be like a fun thing. Well, let's wait till I've expanded, like polished the character a bit more. Kath,
Yeah.
do you want
to I meant this podcast. We should do this podcast now.
Oh, right, sorry, yeah. Yes. Shall we assess the hotness or notness of a dead person, Kath?
Yes, I fucking love doing that.
Okay, do you want to tell everyone what the podcast is about?
Yes, this is Historical Hot or Not. Each episode, Aidan and I will take a turn to suggest a certain historical figure, usually dead, I think that is the rule that they have to be dead, as a potential suitor. So first of all, we'll have a little look at their e-trost profile, their dating profile picture is the first thing that we have a look at. We objectify them and just say if we would bang that. After that, we have a look into their life, their times, read some of their prompts, if you will, and by the end, we decide whether we would tap it or not. If we would tap that, we will put them on the Bay Your Tap Thatistry, where they will remain on there with the likes of the Turin Shroud and Guy Fawkes. If not, then we simply ghost them. So, this episode, I have been sent a copy of the profile picture of today's subject. I don't know who they are yet, or at least I shouldn't do for the purposes of this podcast, but it is in the title of the recording that Aidan made. So here we go.
Kath,
we'll
you're
have
the
it up
second,
for the viewers
second
at home.
person today. No, you're the fifth person I've sent this photo today because I just accidentally sent it to a WhatsApp group called Fish and Chip Friday that I am in with my wife, my mum, and my aunt. So they're all now
wow.
looking confused at a picture of Albert. He is 42, but
Yeah.
not in this photo. He's a younger
No.
man in this photo, and he is from the German Confederation. What do we think, Kath? Is this person hot?
Well, first of all, I want fish and chips now. But that's nothing to do with the photograph that you sent me. This is striking.
It is, isn't it?
He's yeah, man. I mean, that costume, clothes that he's wearing, if you will. I mean, he's got little things on the side on his little epaulets that make him look a bit like a Christmas present. I've got some of them in my wrapping up box under the bed.
There is a Christmas connection with today's subject, which is why I've picked him for the Christmas
of course.
episode. But that wasn't one of them. That's just a happy coincidence that he looks like he's been wrapped up for a little, I don't know,
a little
Victorian
present, if you will.
princess. Yes.
He's wearing 3 of the big sort of chains that like you see a mayor wearing, which I imagine must have been very expensive at the time, because this is a painting, it's not a photograph, so therefore I imagine it's from a while ago. So yeah, I mean, that must have been expensive. He's got like an hourglass figure, quite sort of broad shoulders, tapering in, which I imagine has been brought in by. He's got quite a nice red sort of jacket on, which has got a lovely high collar that's all very detailed. Facially wise,
big fan of high collars.
Yeah, love it. Not Harry Hill high collar though.
No.
Nice
Either way, it will hide an embarrassing neck tattoo. Let's put it that way.
It will, yeah, which I don't think he's got. He has got a little moustache, which one could say is embarrassing.
It's
got. I don't think
yeah,
moustache is for everyone, is it?
It's not for him. Let's put it that way.
No. But
this is a guy who's tried to grow a moustache at 15, totally failed in that endeavor, but has decided, I'm carrying on as I started.
I'm a moustache guy now.
I'm a moustache guy.
What I will say is, his moustache is so insignificant that it actually doesn't look like a moustache at all. Got a full head of hair. That's nice. Sort of, I wouldn't say it was short, but it's not long. And lovely little ringlet curls, which look like they'd be nice to just like boing them. I mean, it's not a hairstyle. It's not a look that I would see in a bar now and go, yeah, that. But he is very good looking.
It's not a great hairstyle. I know what you mean. It's not modern in any sense. You would not see anyone with this hair. But it just also feels like we're only 2 Shoreditch hipster cycles away from this being something that people who own cereal cafes are wearing, ironically / not ironically.
Yeah.
It's like how like big glasses. Do you remember like 20 years ago, hipsters with big glasses just looked so stupid. Now everyone's got big glasses.
Like me.
Yeah, and you look stupid. For all we know, this is just what we're all going to look like in the 2035.
Well, quite. I like a big glasses because it means that I can see everything. Whereas the thin ones, you got to move your head with it.
I don't think your glasses are that big, but it's entirely possible that we're at the cycle of big glasses, the peak of it, and I've now become desensitized to what a big glasses is.
That's entirely possible.
I think that this guy has a shit mustache and shit hair, but it is a testament to how like genuinely immediately hot he is. He's got great piercing eyes. He's got a great like strong nose. None of it matters, does it, Kath? He's fit. No. Like there's no two ways about this. Wispy pubic mustache, stupid hipster haircut from 2027. None of it matters. You would, in my opinion, based solely on the aesthetic, I would bang this guy.
I would, and do you know what? I would bang him, but I don't think you could tear his clothes off because there are so many buttons on that jacket and he's got so many gold chains. I think it'd take a team of dressers to get him out of it, and then.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you couldn't whisper a sweet nothing along the lines of "I'm going to rip your clothes off" when we're alone. It's going to be like, when we get back to the palace, I'm going to call the help, all 24 of them, and I'm going to get them to spend 67 minutes slowly undressing you carefully, removing all this paraphernalia, and then, presuming everything has been removed, I'm going to have you. But by that point, I'll probably be quite tired, so maybe we'll just do it tomorrow when you're dressed more sensibly.
And then they'll start on my corsetry.
And there's another 2 hours there. By that point, you'll be too tired to do it as well.
Whoa. Who is this person?
Albert was born to Ernest III, Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, and his wife Louise of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg on the 26th of August, 1819 at Schloss. It can't be pronounced that way.
Where?
Schloss Rassenau, near Coburg, Germany.
I hear that they've got a wonderful water park there.
A wonderful water park and lots of retired parents getting hammered in the evening. Earlier that year, Albert's future wife, Vicky I, had been born to the same midwife, Charlotte von Sebold, a lady regarded as the first gynecologist in Germany. And there, Kath, we found a future subject, because that's exactly the kind of thing we like on this podcast. Women who were the first to do things.
Yes.
Even if that thing was staring at cocks and fannies and going, there's a degree in this.
I mean, I don't think there were many babies coming out of cocks, but yeah.
No, but gynecologists can study both, right?
No.
What?
No, it's a gynecologist. No, I don't know. It's a different
shit, you're right.
word. Yeah, gynecology is like women's health.
Listeners, you're learning, but more importantly, I'm learning.
Listen, right? I've got a level 2 in medical terminology that I studied for. This
has genuinely blown my mind. Like,
yeah,
I've been doing this wrong the whole time. I thought a gynecologist did both. Shafts and holes. No, just holes.
Oh, andrology.
Oh, is that the study of cocks?
Yeah, men's health.
Either way, Kath, a future subject, I think we can both agree.
Yeah, I think that's where the word androgynous comes from, because it's always looks like a man. I guess.
So what if you look like a woman? Would it be gynandrogynous?
No, I think it's one of those words where it has grown to mean. So androgynous means looks like neither, right?
Of
Doesn't
course,
it?
Yeah.
But I guess it will have begun with, she looks like a man.
Yeah. Well, I suppose Bowie got called androgynous for going the other way. So.
Yeah, and he looks like a man too. Famous paedophile David Bowie that everyone is like, yeah, but I liked Ziggy Stardust. Yeah, but he still shagged a kid. Well, she was 14, which is a child. Anyway, sorry.
I know this is hardly the point, Kath, but I think she was 15. I'm not saying that's I'm not defending him. I just think in the name of historical accuracy, we should say he was into 15-year-olds, not 14-year-olds.
Yeah, and that's entirely fine for an adult man in his 20s or 30s to tap.
Absolutely. He may have been 40s, you know. That might have been in the 80s. Anyway, sorry, we're going off point into hearsay.
Come on, Prince Albert.
Prince Albert.
It's Prince Albert, isn't it?
So yeah, they had the same midwife, him and his future wife, Vicky I. By the royal standards that Albert and Victoria would later set themselves, this is a decent degree of separation, except it isn't because they also had the same grandfather and grandmother. Kath,
so
what's the maddest? Yeah, what's the maddest thing you have in common with Reese?
The maddest thing that I've got in common with my other half, Reese, is not a grandparent.
Thank God.
Yeah, no.
It's a father.
Yes. He is my brother. No, he isn't my brother. Could not be further from that. I've met his parents, and they're not my parents. So I know that for sure.
Have you met his grandparents?
No.
Wow.
No, that's true.
Well, I just don't walk before you can talk, or whatever the phrase is.
What?
I'm just saying, you stated that you don't have the same grandparents. You've never met his grandparents, so just don't. We need to be accurate on this podcast. And if there's any doubt, we can't be making bold statements like that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's nothing mad that we have in common, really. It's all just like I wouldn't say liking the same music's mad.
Yeah.
Do you know what's the maddest thing that you and your wife have in common?
We have it's actually disturbingly kind of along the same lines as the mad coincidence that Albert and Victoria have.
What? But she's from Australia.
Yeah, I know, but as you know, all Australians are descended from common thieves who come from England. Elitra and I have a common surname in our ancestry.
You incestuous bastard.
A common name in our ancestry. And that name is Grant. It is our dad's Christian name. Moving on.
Oh my God, was he in EastEnders?
Yes, he was. He was married to Sharon. I actually had a brief moment when I thought all three of the four grandparents of Albert and Vicky were the same, but actually it turned out it was a hyperlink error on Wikipedia, which I think should bode well for this podcast, because I double checked it a lot. I quadruple checked it because I was like, that's too good to be true, and it turned out it was too good to be true. Oh. They only have one set of grandparents of the same, which is acceptable.
It's not, is it? But sure.
So when you say Prince Albert, Kath, what's the first thing you think of as a modern
cock rings?
Cock rings. Cock rings. Do you want to know if the cock ring thing is true or not?
Yeah, I do. And then everyone else will just switch the podcast off once you've told us this.
That's right. Well, actually, I'll save it for later in the podcast, because there's a myth busting section later in the podcast.
Okay.
Sort of gives away, perhaps, whether or not that is actually a thing.
Look at that, we're being those guys now.
We're being those
Wait
guys.
until the end and you'll find out. Yeah, he's dick pissed.
So, when Albert wasn't driving titanium rings into his dick, he studied law, political economy and philosophy at the University of Bonn and excelled at sport, fencing and riding. It's unclear whether riding in this context means horses or posh birds, but as we'll find out later, probably the latter, perhaps a bit of both.
We also had a fencing and horse riding programme at our school. That's a joke. We had a netball that we were allowed to run around with on a pitch unsupervised.
Yes, resulting in many injuries. Yeah, I was genuinely about to drop my jaw, but I'm quite gullible, Kath, when you said we had horse riding. I was like, in Rochdale, fuck off.
Can you imagine giving a bunch of kids at a local comprehensive swords and then just being like, right, we're going to teach you how to fight? Because they wouldn't be able to afford those mesh masks. So
they'd just be like, they just nip to the car garage next door and be like, hey, have you got any welding masks we can borrow? We're teaching the kids fencing.
So many facial wounds.
And by the time they get back, they just greet the image of a horse with a cigarette in its mouth. And like, who gave the horse the cigarette? Come on. If you don't come forward, you're all on detention.
It was all of us.
We all collectively put the Benson and Hedges in its mouth. The idea of marriage between Albert and his first cousin Victoria was first suggested by the Dowager Duchess of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, who said that he was the pendant to the pretty cousin, an act of matchmaking that seems right on the money if you want all subsequent generations of matchmaking to be made between princes and princesses with chins the size of kayaks. Kath, do you want another fun fact about the Dowager Duchess of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, the literal matchmaker of Al and Vicky 1?
Yeah, I absolutely do.
She's both of their grandmother.
No.
She's the aforementioned shared grandmother of the two. What would you do, Kath, if your granny said, hey, Kath, you've clearly got a wide on for your cuz. You should.
Well, first of all, my cousins are a lot younger than me. I was the oldest by a bit. So there would be a level of Bowie-esque weirdness there. But another thing, so they say, don't they, like, it's less to do with the the relationship and more to do with the proximity when being brought up. So, like, there used to be...
Yeah, you've talked about this before in the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
In
go on.
China, they used to send the bride-to-be to grow up with the family, didn't they? So that, well, not all of China, but a certain part. I don't know which. I'm not QI. But then because they'd grown up like brother and sister, they're like, I'm not fucking tapping my brother. That's disgusting.
It's really interesting, isn't it? So it's almost like even more, because these two did grow up. Well, they grew up in literal different countries. So I'm sure, from as odd as it is, from an emotional point of view, it probably wasn't that weird. Whereas people you're talking about, they might not even be related, but it would be more weird by virtue of the fact that you grew up with them and had dinner with them and played Monopoly with them as children.
Yeah. So the thing is, I guess what I'm saying is, if you presented my cousin to me, I had never met them before. It was more culturally accepted, expected, and he was fucking fit, and he was, they're like, do you wanna tap that? Do you wanna marry that? I'd be like, yeah, all right then.
Nigel Mather, your cousin, she's up for it. So just at Hot Not Pod if you want to get in touch for a one night stand with your grandparents' other grandchild. So
what have I started?
Vicky once said of Al, Albert is extremely handsome. His hair is about the same colour as mine. Wonder why. His eyes are large and blue, and he has a beautiful nose and a very sweet mouth with fine teeth. But the charm of his countenance is his expression, which is most delightful. And now, in defence of the Dowager Duchess of gene pool shrinking, Vicky One did have a wide-on for Albert, as the aforementioned statement attests, a wide-on so big that Albert later had to build the Crystal Palace to house it, an act of kindness largely recognised as the first vajazzle in Western culture. So. There you go.
And that's the Crystal Maze, sorry.
That wasn't why the Crystal Palace was built. We'll find that out later. 15th of October, 1839, Vicky One proposed to Al, and the couple managed to find a window in Al's schedule where he wasn't inserting metal rods into his shaft, and thus married on the 15th of February, 1840. The British public didn't like Albert initially, as he was seen as being from a poor and undistinguished minor state. Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld is a pretty small state, although it is longer than it is wide, and if you look at it on a map, it landlocks a perfectly circular smaller state at the northern tip of the country, which on a map creates the illusion of a ring of land piercing the tip of like the sort of long Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld land run.
Okay, like a cock and balls.
Like a cock ring being driven through the penis. That's where I was going with that joke. It's not at all shaped like that at all, although it is small.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. She was not amused. Old Victoria one.
She was.
And no one was. It wasn't just Victoria. No one was amused by that. According to Stanley Weintraub's book Albert Uncrowned and Roger Fulford's book The Prince Consort, British Prime Minister Lord Melbourne weakened old Al by granting him a smaller annuity than conventionally granted to consorts. 30 grand instead of the usual 50 grand. Kath, in modern money, that is £2.5 million, which I'm sure you can agree is a real slap in the dick piercing for old Albert.
I'd feel very shortchanged there if I was only allowed £2.5 million a year.
I know.
It wouldn't sustain my lifestyle.
This guy's going through a lot of cock rings. Like, how on earth is he supposed to fund his cock ring addiction with a mere 30 grand a year? Come on, Lord Melbourne.
Oh man, that's nuts. That's so much money.
I know.
How? What?
And that's designed as an insult as well. Remember, that's like we don't fuck this German guy. Do you know what's really going to sting? Even more than when he got his dick pierced. I'll tell you what's really going to sting: £2.5 million per year in modern money. That'll show him who's boss.
He didn't have to pay rent.
I know.
Does it? We bought his house, and he doesn't have to pay for transport because we bought his fucking carriages. So what is he spending it on? Is he a gambling addict, or is he into coke?
He did get a tattoo and piercing parlor installed in Windsor Palace, so that's not cheap. I'm just saying.
It's not, but it's not £2.5 million. What do you do?
Those piercing guns cost money, Kath.
I feel like, have you seen that John Mulaney bit? Where's my money?
Where's that money, you fat motherfucker? Where's my money?
Yeah,
Where he's talking about about university fees, and he paid for them, and he recently got a letter being like, do you want to make a donation? So I paid you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
What are you doing with it?
Well,
that's how I feel about this. It is an insult. 2.5 million is an insult to everybody.
Everybody except
insulted.
Albert. That's who it's an insult to.
Yeah. Fuck me. I've gone off him a bit now, actually. Although, do marry a rich man, you know?
Yes.
But then I guess Victoria didn't have to marry a rich man because she was going to become a fucking queen.
Exactly.
Oh, right, go on.
In his own words, I'm very happy and contented, but the difficulty in filling my place with the proper dignity is that I am only the husband, not the master in the house. According to Fulford, when Albert wasn't sliding curved alloys into his veiny Viscount, he supported moves to raise working ages, was president of the Society for the Extinction of Slavery and the Society for the Improvement of the Condition of the Labouring Classes. Such public works did make him gradually more popular with the public, which was recognised with the Parliament passing the Regency Act of 1840 to designate him regent in the event of the Queen's death before their child reached the age of maturity. So we're starting to find a bit more about the person. We've both agreed that he's clearly fit, he's easy on the eye. Personality-wise, what are you making so far, Kath?
He's quite woke, isn't he, really?
That's what I was thinking. I was quite surprised by this element, because I always think of Victorian times as being quite backward socially. But actually, sometimes you need to be reminded, like, well, no, actually, this is when like slavery was eradicated, and although conditions for the poor were horrendous, the people were at least aware of it and thinking about it.
Yeah, and then like as well, you know, they were doing something about it as well, weren't they? Like, was it they had the Great Stink, didn't they, in the 1800s, where the water level in the Thames went down, and it was just like 6 feet of shit, like actual human shit, and they were like, oh damn, we're drinking from that. So then they made all of the infrastructure for sewers, which we still use now. So they were doing, you know,
I think they were doing stuff, but maybe not quite at the pace that like you should be doing.
Yeah,
but then it's hard when you have really rapid societal change all of a sudden. Maybe we're seeing it now with the sort of like online digital Wild West. Like this has only come about in the last 20, 25 years. Like, you know, policing this stuff's hard. And incidentally, Albert was also the president of the Society for removing the 6 feet of shit and bile from the Thames.
He just went out with a shovel. Here's a spade, lad.
Yeah,
Go
exactly.
On. Can you imagine that? You shovel all the shit up and you're like, right, where? I'll just dump it where we usually do, back in the river.
Here is Dinah's spade. Let us remove this shizer from the river. One thing Albert wasn't the president of was the Society for Abstaining from Banging Queens, because Vicky became pregnant within 2 months of marriage, and they went on to have a total of 9 children in 17 years, and they weren't even Catholic. But look at them. They're pumping out children like my granddad and grandparents who had fucking shitloads of children.
I saw a meme online and it made me laugh because it was like, oh, you know, your grandparents being like, oh, everything's so sexualized now. And you're like, mate, you had 18 children. You were never not pregnant.
You literally were like, your wife would get home from literally having her nether regions torn asunder by a human life. And you were just right back on it. And we're too sexualized? Come on!
Yeah, Nicki Minaj is going out in a leotard, and suddenly that's worse, is it?
Yeah, like Kanye West's marrying someone who absolutely refuses to not be naked at any point, whether she's inside or outside. But apparently we're too sexualized now, and they were just like I said, we said chain smoking earlier. They're just like chain fucking in royal palaces in the 19th century. According to Weintraub, Albert arranged the marriage of Victoria, his 14-year-old daughter, to Prince Frederick William of Prussia, but delayed the union until she was 17. Woke or not woke, Kath? I can't figure it out.
Oh, well, I think that year makes all the difference, doesn't it, really?
Well, it's 3 years. So he delayed it. Maybe
3
I
years.
missaid it. 3 years. I just can't
Maybe
tell.
Is he
a good dad for stopping his adolescent daughter from being married off to a foreign state so young, or is he a bad dad for marrying his adolescent daughter off to a foreign state so young? It's just like, can't really figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, even now you could be married at 17 if you wanted to, couldn't you?
Yeah, that's true, I suppose. I just feel like this whole thing, it's like getting your daughter for a 14th birthday a needle full of heroin, but keeping it locked up in the loft until she's of age, and then saying,
Yeah.
and when you're of age, we'll shoot up together. And like that's
Mhm.
the parental responsible thing to do as a parent.
Yeah, I just want you to do it safely, darling.
Yeah.
At least I'll know where you are. Royal come.
Yeah, I know where you'll be. You'll be having Prussian sperm shot up your shaft somewhere on the continent. And as long as I know that's where you are, that's fine. When Albert wasn't looping hard oars through his member, he served as president for the Royal Commission for the Exhibition of 1851, fighting for every stage in the project in the face of parliamentary opposition. The exhibition opened on the 1st of May 1851 in a glass building known as the Crystal Palace, which, despite earlier statements by me, it was not made to house the Queen's wide-stimulated genitals. It was a huge, wide, wet success, according to Hobhouse. The Natural History Museum, the Science Museum, the Imperial College London, the Royal Albert Hall, and the Victorian Albert Museum were all built on land bought explicitly for the establishment of cultural and educational institutions and paid for with profits from this very exhibition. The area of Kensington which houses many of these institutions was referred to as Albertopolis. So, again, I feel like this is another notch on the I would bang Albert bedpost, I think, right? It feels like he's a liberal guy. He wants people to be educated. He wants slavery to stop. He wants to drive hard oars through his dick. He's a modern guy.
He is, and it's a good set of museums. It's still a cracking set of museums.
Great, yeah. And we sort of came of age after the previous Labour government just made them all free. So I moved to London and just had access to all these incredible museums for free. It was so good.
I would go as far to say that it's an exhaustingly good set of museums because I was so naive when I moved to London. I was like, I am going to go to 3 of these museums in one day. And you can't. We stole so much stuff.
Is that why you've got that giant Diplodocus skeleton in your flat, Kath?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's bigger than my flat, but it's fine.
I love them all as well. They were introduced by the previous Labour government, as I said. Genuinely, I think I'll take the Iraq War if it means I get to look at a massive whale skeleton in an atrium for free. That's where I'm at with these museums. They're great.
I disagree. However, apparently what they did to get the skin and stuff off the bones of the exhibits, you see the big skeletons hung up. They just bury them in the grounds of the museum, and then
really?
Nature would take its course. Yeah, but then they'd forget where they buried stuff. You'd be digging around, they'd be like, "Oh shit, a whale!" Come on, lads, let's dig this one up.
I refuse to believe that these esteemed institutions, Kath, are like, holy shit, where did we bury that 6-ton T-Rex skeleton?
No, I think the T-Rex skeleton, by the time they'd found it, didn't have much meat left on the bones.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
I'm talking about other, specimens.
Whale, yes, sorry,
I don't know, got this weasel that we want to clear the skin off.
If there's still flesh on the Velociraptor, you've got a bigger problem than how are we going to store these bones?
Yeah, where did you find that? There's a lovely place called Jurassic Park.
And let's just say the walls have been breached.
Have you seen the Jurassic Park updates on Twitter? If you haven't, follow it. But basically, they just do updates as though Jurassic Park is open.
That's fun.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh, it's great.
Good tip. The Royal Albert Hall looked different in the 19th century, consisting of a very narrow front entrance, from which emerged a giant and curved metal arch, which looped up into the sky and back round again to re-enter the roof and connect with the start of the arch, creating a circle or ring structure, which appeared to pierce the top and front of the Albert Hall. architects and observers at the time questioned the purpose of the ring, which Albert believed helped to stimulate conversational intercourse within the hall's front entrance.
So it was like Wembley.
Yes. Just to be clear, that was a joke. I was making a joke about the Albert Hall
Okay.
having a Prince Albert piercing. And it was about as successful as when I did it previously, talking about the shape of the state of Germany that it was from. But I went anyway, Kath. I committed. I thought I've the script written, and I'll be damned if I'm editing it on the fly for any reason, including rejection of my style of humour. It's happening.
Okay, well, I mean, you are presenting us largely with facts here, and I don't know anything about this guy, so I am just going to believe you.
Well, I am very much playing with the sort of undefined crossover between history and comedy podcast that this is, and trusting that the audience know which bits are real facts and which bits aren't. But yeah. Kath, do you want to join me in shattering some myths, like a German prince shattering the exterior casing of his genital membrane with a decorative titanium halo?
Oh, do I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Myth 1. Did Al introduce crimbo trees to Great Britain? Well,
no.
You're correct. He didn't. This is the festive tie-in for this episode. There was a myth in England. There's a myth everywhere that it was the Germanic Prince Albert that introduced Christmas trees to England, and it's not true. Victoria and Albert, according to EnglishHeritageOrg.uk, Victoria and Albert weren't the first royals to put up what we know today as a Christmas tree. George III married Queen Charlotte, who, like Albert, was raised in Germany. Charlotte is credited with bringing decorated evergreen trees to England when she introduced their first Christmas tree at Queen's Lodge, Windsor, in 1800.
Oh, so you're saying that a woman did something and then people only noticed it when a man did it as well?
Well, as I'm about to go on, that's literally what happened.
Oh, God, you don't hear of that happening very much.
Never happens.
I literally have a book on this shelf that is about that happening. It's like this thick with women who were just overlooked because the guy was like, said it louder.
Yeah. Victoria and Albert were so closely tied to the Christmas tree tradition because they were famously illustrated standing beside a decorated tree with their children. The engraving was published in the press in the 1840s, and it quickly took hold of the national imagination. According to History Today, Prince Albert imported several spruce firs from his native Coburg in 1840, and they weren't a novelty to the aristocracy because of the fact that Charlotte had already introduced trees. However, periodicals of the time, including the Illustrated London News, Cassell's magazine, and the Graphic, depicted the royal Christmas trees every year from 1845 until the late 1850s. So that's why he's been credited with it, because actually it was him doing that. Sorry, I'll start again. Because the printing press and cheaper printing mechanisms were allowing more things to be printed at the time, it meant that something that Charlotte had only introduced into the aristocracy were able to be introduced into the wider public because they were printing these images of Prince Albert and Prince Albert's Christmas trees every year. So,
okay, so he was able to penetrate the wider public.
He penetrated the wider public like rings penetrated his dick on a daily basis.
Yeah, like 5 golden rings, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. 5 cock rings. Incidentally, Albert was not... so
sorry.
go
on. 4 fit birds. 2 French hens.
Incidentally, Albert was not the first person to wear a cock ring in England, but an 1853 Christmas card depicting Queen Victoria stimulating Albert's cock ring with her tongue was so popular, it helped popularise the idea of cock rings in the UK. Now, Kath,
so that's where that brand of Christmas card comes from, then.
Exactly, yeah. Now, Kath, do you reckon our audience are intelligent enough to know whether that bit was a bit from the comedy side of the podcast or from the history side of the podcast? Or does it not matter? Is it all just one big shared comedy history pie at this point?
Well, I don't know, because I always do, as you well know, you receive them, the round robin letter around Christmas, and on the front of it is me sucking off my partner. So, you know, in some areas, that is a standard greetings card. But for people who don't live in those areas, then yeah, I do hope that they realise it was a joke.
And round robin was a 19th century colloquialism for cock ring. So it's just
Yeah.
full circle like a cock ring. So speaking of cock rings, myth 2. So I have repeatedly mentioned Albert's penchant for forcing metallurgic coils through his imperial dong. But is it true? Did he truly do this to his fleshy cannon? Did he put solid bands through his purple glands? Did he ever really turn his urethral traffic into a dual carriageway? What do you
I'm
reckon,
going to
Kath?
say no.
Well, the truth is, we don't know.
Mhm.
So I went to a website called roguepiercing.co.uk, which I will stress at this point might be ahistorical.
Yeah, well, that's where I get all of my news.
Well, yeah, I don't think Dominic Sandbrook started his career at roguepiercing.co.uk. Let's put it that way. There are many stories about how it got its name. This is the Prince Albert. From the theory that Prince Albert himself had Peyronie's disease, which causes a curving of the erect penis, and used the piercing to straighten it and to hide the erection from the Queen's daughters.
Surely they're his daughters too.
Oh, Albert, put it away. They're my daughters too. Just. Why did you put in the cock ring I bought you? Legend also has it that Prince Albert used the piercing to pull back the foreskin to keep his member sweet smelling so as not to offend the Queen. How considerate. Just use a fucking wet
Surely.
wipe, mate.
Yeah, wash yourself.
That's history right there. Do you know what the best thing to do here is? What, just rub water on yourself once a day? No. Like surgically penetrate one of the most sensitive parts of my body. They'd rather do
Yeah.
that than just have a hot bath.
At a time when infection's quite high, so if this goes wrong, best case scenario, I lose my dick, and worst case scenario, I die. Anyway,
yeah,
where's your needles?
exactly. The most likely theory is that Victorian haberdashers called it the dressing ring and used it to firmly secure male genitalia to the more comfortable leg. It was very popular in those days for men to wear extremely tight trousers, and the piercing helped minimize visible endowment. Although that I did get that from Rogue Piercing, I have read that on a few other more historically accurate websites. So
Okay.
that is a thing. It was called the dressing ring. I don't really understand. To be honest, I don't really understand how it works. Maybe I can't, as a small-dicked man, I can't really relate to it unless the piercing hooks to, like, say Uranus, and you're like properly folding it under the leg. I don't get how.
They tuck in.
Yeah, I don't get it. If you're John Holmes and you've got some 13-inch dick, you could put a fucking shower curtain of rings down the side of it. You're not going to be able to hide it from anyone if you're wearing leather trousers.
No, but I guess, I mean, it doesn't say what part of the leg, does it? It could be like the back, or
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how this works, to be honest, Aidan. But I mean, if you are wearing like real budgie smuggler sort of leggings, it would be, you'd feel quite unsure, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I suppose it, like, the natural direction of the penis is forward. So I guess by pulling it to the side, and depending on how far you pull it to the side, if you're like going right to the outer hip, you might be stretching it enough to sort of mask its length and or girth. On the 14th of December 1861, during a rare moment of not turning his dick into a shower curtain, Albert died.
No.
Yeah, he is recorded as having died of typhoid fever, although years of stomach issues leading up to the moment have led modern historians to conclude that he may have actually died of Crohn's disease. Either way, it is a surprise that he didn't die from complications resulting from his penchant for pummeling enclosed hardware into his fat, big Saxe-Coburg cock. Rest in peace, Al.
Oh, that's a shame. It is crazy, isn't it, how something that is so treatable now. I do often think, you know, how, yeah, what would you do? What would you do in those times? You know, you don't have drugs. It's, God, I can't even think of the word now.
Anesthetic?
My...
No, sorry.
No, immunosuppressants. They didn't have immunosuppressant drugs then, so they didn't even understand what it was. you just had a bit of a bellyache.
Like I know people with Crohn's, like young guys with
Yeah.
Crohn's. So imagine if like that was a death sentence. It's like it'd be like getting
Yeah.
AIDS or something. No, it is mad.
Yeah, it's an awful way to go as well. Poor guy.
Yeah,
How old was he?
he was
Sorry.
young. He was 42.
42. Damn, and
Yeah,
he
but
had 9 kids.
But this, yeah, this is the. I mean, this is why like Victoria's grieving is so long because he dies exceptionally young. She dies exceptionally old. She doesn't die till 1901. She lives for another. She lives for another 40 years. She almost lives the length of his life again after in mourning.
Yeah.
And it does have a profound effect because she basically kind of withdraws from public life. And I don't think Victoria or him were massively popular. It's only when you get to one of the Jubilees in the late 19th century that there's a sort of like public reawakening and interest in Queen Victoria and and the monarchy and stuff like that. And actually, at her retreat, he did make some reforms to the sort of imagery of the royal family that tried to sort of reshape it more as like a sort of moral example. But a lot of that got undone by the fact that he died and she retreated. They were no longer there to sort of help preserve those changes. So it's interesting.
Oh, that's also, she wasn't very good mum, was she?
I don't know much about this. You tell me about whether she was a good or bad mum.
No, she was just a bit of a dick, really. And then there's a beautiful, I think it's, I mean, I don't know which one of her 1,000 children it is, but there's a picture of his wedding day. And so he's stood here, and then his wife is here, and then she's sat in between them, staring at a bust of Prince Albert.
Oh my God.
And that's their wedding photo.
Always making it about your grief.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine, like, if they did Queen speeches back then, televised?
Oh my God. Let it go. I'm sorry, but everybody dies young. It is the Victorian times. We are drinking out of the same water that we put our fucking shit in. We are making wallpaper out of asbestos. We have buried people by water sources, and we share one toilet and one house between a whole fucking street. Everybody's dying. 25% of kids survive. Everybody's dead. Get over it. Fuck me.
She's literally doing the Queen's speech, and she's like, I'm thinking maybe I could just stare at the bust of Albert while a tear goes down my face. Good idea, Your Highness. Only thing is, you have done that for the previous 23 Queen's speeches, so maybe just talk about the government's agenda this year. No, I think get the bust. I've made my mind up. Yeah, that is a dick move. That's making it's making the wedding day about you.
Yeah, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I know that she just was not like kind or loving to her children. It was like, I have had you, now go and live. And they're like, but Mama, we need your support. Why are you still here?
I heard Edward VII's wedding. So Edward VII is the oldest son of Albert and Victoria. I heard at his wedding, the sort of wedding photograph, it's like the couple are standing apart and she's in between them holding a cushion. And on the cushion is Albert's cock ring. And again, she's just making it about herself.
Wow. Bit like having Rasputin's pickled dick in a jar.
Well, that's what happened.
Son's wedding day.
That's what happened at the wedding of Nicholas and Alexandria.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, is he on the Bayeux Tapestry, Kath? Is he?
Of
Prince
course he
Albert.
is.
He is, isn't he?
Of course he fucking is. Look at him.
He's fit. He's fairly progressive for the time. He fucks. This German prince fucks, and we know that is a biological hard fact with the emphasis on hard.
Yeah.
This is an open and shut case. I was worried you might say no just because he's royal, but I'm so glad you're on board. He is fair. There's no two ways about it. I thought I wouldn't be into him because I sort of expected. I was expecting to find out the opposite of what is true. Like he was like, "No, slavery is good. We need to extend it further than it is now." No, he's fairly modern.
I like him. Yes. I like his vibe. I like the cut of his jib.
And he died young.
I like the museums.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, he died young enough to not become a cunt.
That's the thing.
Didn't
Yeah. Good museums full of dino skeletons. He's on the biotech baptistry. Easily on the biotech baptistry. It's a landslide. 2-0.
It is. Go on, son.
Yes. So I know we shattered the myth of Albert bringing Christmas to the UK like a hole being punctured in the fleshy membrane of a princely penis. But we did offer a Christmas stocking full of knob-piercing gags, and the metaphorical stocking itself had a giant cock ring hooked through the tip of it in honor of Prince Albert. So I think we should also maybe start a new myth that St. Nicholas had an anal piercing. And then hopefully, that'll become known as a Saint Nick. And then hopefully some other history podcast in 150 years will have to sort of clear up the urban legend mess we've created by propagating that myth. So, Kath, I'm off to get a St. Nicholas in the back and a Prince Albert in the front.
Perfect.
And I guess I'll see you in the new year.
Yeah. Have a good Christmas and stuff.
You too.
Yeah, no, I guess I'll see you when I see you.
Probably in about 10 minutes when we do the next record, but they don't need to know about that.
No. So yeah, I mean, give us a like, give us a follow, as you will, all of that shit. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies. I don't care, their listen's as good as ours. We were recommended by The Guardian, so if that flicks
you
know, if it flicks your bean, if it really does make them go, oh right, yeah, okay, that's it. Tell them what you've got to tell them. You can follow us on the social medias. I'm at Kath Comedy. On most of them, although I'm at before, now, after, then on TikTok. I'm trying out a little history thing, you know. Aidan, what's your?
I'm at Aidan McComedy on all the social media platforms, all the variants of Twitter that exist now, all the countless things that we exodus to every 6 months. I'm on all of them, including Instagram and TikTok, and it's at Hot Not Pod across all the various things. And if you go to Linktree Hot Not Pod, you can see links to our premium extra bonus material that you can buy for as little as £2 a month. So yes, thanks for listening. And as always,
it's not what's on the outside, it's what's on the inside of the coffin that fucks.
Happy Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. You have been listening to Historical Hot or Not with me, Catherine Mather, and Aidan McCaffrey. Theme song by David Eagle, and our logo is by Richard Todd. You can head over to co-b.com/hotnotpod. Over there we've got some Hot Not merch. We are currently selling branded condoms and branded badges. Get over there while stocks last.